All right, so our last topic for the semester is conservation biology. We're going to look at some different ideas throughout here, and I'm going to expand on some stuff from a previous chapter. But really, what we're trying to do is how can we protect the many species threatened by human activities? So we want to look at what are those activities, what can we do better, and how do we, as a conservation biologist, how do you look even at an area? How do you look at an ecosystem or a biome and decide what needs to be saved? So we want to look at all those different ideas. So what we're going to do is start by looking at biodiversity levels. And so there are three different levels that you could choose to look at. And the first one is genetic. And so we've done the genetics before. So what we're looking at is a particular species. And then within that species, there's genetic diversity. And so how diverse is it? We had you read an article on cheetahs, looking at that genetic diversity. And so on the bottom here, you can see two voles, and they're slightly different in color. One's a little bit darker. So that would be that variation in a vole population. But also, if you look to the right, there are some corn, and those corn are all actually the same species with some genetic diversity in how they look. So again, this may be a level that we are interested in. And you may want to try to preserve. All right, another level, adding another one to it, is the species level. You look at the number of species in the ecosystem or across the biosphere. And so it's a step up. So instead of that first picture, we're looking at the second picture here, where you're looking at species diversity in a coastal redwood ecosystem. So how many species are here? What are they? What do they matter? And then you want to also think about, okay, I have them here and I might have them in another spot. And this is why I want to kind of make clear with the different levels is maybe I have this vole here, and then I also have this vole up north. So can I destroy the land here because I have the vole somewhere else? Well, genetically, they're two populations, so there is some diversity there. So do I make that decision? What level do I decide to save the species? So to get an idea, well, when we look at species, you want to look at, especially with conservation, you want to look at endangered or threatened or vulnerable. There's lots of different names. Endangered species is one that is in major species in danger of extinction, and we have both a federal and a state list. Threatened species is one that is doing okay now, but if we do not do something to change our ways, they are likely to go in danger in the future. So I gave you some local examples. Well, not real local. This is the California condor. This was a bird I think we've talked about in here maybe, but one of the most endangered birds in the world. They were down to just 27 birds remaining. There's now over 500 of them. They've been bred in captivity and re-released up in the Grand Canyon, Pinnacles State Park. They're actually up in Fillmore, up above a Magic Mountain. And so there are some. This is the California jewel flower. This is an endangered species in the Carrizo Plains, Central. So it's not just animals, but also plants. And here's a species that is actually local that is threatened. It's a vulnerable species. This is the western pond turtle. The turtles that you often see in our waterways are actually red-eared sliders, which is an invasive species. And we'll have this bright red right here. This is actually our local species of turtle that is being pushed out by that introduced species. And we actually have one of these actually in our wildlife sanctuary right now. I saw those. I was in with a group of us. We're in there and we spotted one in our lake. So that's pretty cool. All right, and then take it one more level. So now we're not looking at just the species level, but now we're looking at the communities and how they interact with each other. And so here you look at the interactions of members within an ecosystem and across the biosphere. So now we're looking at how everybody relates within here. And what happens with these removal of one species will or can have a huge effect on the ecosystem. So the example they used in the book was this guy right here, and this is a fruit bat. And so they eat fruit and they are disappearing. They're actually being eaten. It turns out they're a luxury food. They're, you know, they're a gourmet at the restaurants. And unfortunately, these guys are starting to disappear. You can see they're Guam and Saipan, some of the islands that they're found on. And what's happening is we believe that 4/5 of all the trees in the Samoan Islands are actually use these guys as pollinators. So as these things disappear, we have a feeling that the diversity on these islands are also going to take a huge hit. So again, when you're doing this, what do I look at? Do I look at the genetics and I have one little small group of organisms? Do I look at a species level, which may be in multiple habitats, or do I look at a community in all? And I'm not looking at necessarily any one species, but knowing that if I remove a species, it can have serious damage on others. So one of the problems with biodiversity is you gotta talk about what level are you arguing, and you got to take all of these, I think, into account when you're trying to conserve something. All right, biodiversity and human welfare. So the question is, why should we care? And I hate to have that I have to even have the slide, but first of all, they have intrinsic value. Just, you know, just being there and being pretty, I suppose, is good. But also we have many of the plant species, especially our food, crops, medicine. Up on the top right is a type of periwinkle. That one is known to to cure two types of cancers. One is a leukemia, child leukemia, and it is known to be successful, 95% success rate. There are many periwinkles that are now endangered, and they may have medicine we never find them because they disappeared. And fibers for clothes, ropes, baskets. I didn't close that parentheses, but also ecosystem services. And you can see that on the right, things that they help sustain our lives. And there's cultural things, you know, with recreation and again, aesthetics. And even spiritual. And then we have provisioning for food and medicines and fresh water. We have regulating, which if you look on around there is erosion, climate regulation, water regulation, you know, so lots of different things. And also supporting our photosynthesis, the base of our food web. So all of these are services that other things besides us give us, and we need to take care of them. And we will stop the share on that.